Knight of Wands, front and center. Someone is heavily into your energy at this time, I'm going to say. A fire sign, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Knight of Wands could be someone that is middle-aged, not too old, not too young, but he's looking at you. He's looking straight at you. So let's see what he's thinking. The Nine of Swords. And the Queen of Swords. He's looking at you, but I don't want to say slightly intimidated because I don't feel like that's the right word to use here, but this person is anxious to interact with you in some way. We'll clarify more, but someone is anxious. 1:11 on the clock when I looked up. You should be anxious to interact with the Queen of Swords. This is a woman that is very intelligent, that knows how to use her words, and is not afraid to use her sword. She's doesn't like to be fooled, and especially if you try and run game on her, right? Like the Knight of Wands would. He's very fiery. He's very passionate. He has a lot of energy, and that is attractive. It is. But what else? You know, she is not going to get swept up in emotions that much because she's an air sign. So even though her heart beats and she can feel that pulse, you know, she needs intellectual stimulation. She needs intellectual safety, I want to say, to let down her guard and put down her sword fully. Like she's sitting there and she's open, right? She's open to talk, but she sees from above, she sees from below, she sees right through you. So in order for the Queen of Swords to put down her sword and fully relax around someone, she has to trust you. Or she has to know that your intentions are kind, at least, and not trying to be some F-boy. Excuse me. So I feel like this Knight of Wands is nervous and is thinking heavily about this. There's a lot of hands on the head, which means comfort. We all express things without even using words, just by our body language, just by the way we move our bodies. And it's not, so set in stone where it's like, well, if you put your hand on your forehead, it means this. But when you look at someone's overall mannerisms, or you look at them under a certain microscope or situation that they're put in and how they react, normally when people feel nervous or they feel like something isn't going their way in a conversation, or they're feeling attacked, or they're lying, they're withholding, something is going on, right, where it feels shaky. Most likely people tend to touch themselves, in a comforting way. Like they'll touch their head, they'll touch their mouth, they'll touch their hair, they'll touch their neck, in order to self-soothe. So let's clarify a little more here. So there's intimidation, that's what I want to say for some reason. The Eight of Cups and the Five of Swords. Well, yeah, there you go. They know without a doubt that you are more than willing to walk away from things that don't serve you. And you can flip it if you're the male or the female here. But this male knows that this female has no problem walking away. And it's not that she's abandoning ship all the time. She just knows what fights to fight and what people to just let go of. Like if this Knight of Wands, who is very flirty, comes to her and, he puts his magic on her and it works. It works. He's good at it. He's definitely attractive. He's definitely, he's hot. But um, if he shows her signs of disloyalty, lying, game playing, manipulation of any kind, if she just has a slight feeling of him playing games with her, withholding the truth or something weird, right? She'll just pack up and leave. She's just like, okay, see you. Very nice to see you, but I don't think this is going to work. So this person is a little nervous of that. Maybe he has a bad reputation. Maybe he has a bad reputation. We'll clarify more. What else with the Knight of Wands? What's going on here? He's afraid. He knows. He's afraid of being tricked. There's a lot of negative energy here, actually. There's a lot of negative energy with this guy, and when it comes to love, he's used to people fighting. He's used to women fighting with him, for him, against him. He's used to women tricking him, right? This is all about disillusionment and tricks. This is all about fighting and letting go and breaking up. And this is all about walking away from things that you thought you had and moving on. This is anxiety. So there's a lot of negative feelings that this guy is going through before he does anything, or maybe he's reminiscing on some sort of interaction, between you two. Whatever it is, this guy is kind of like in his feelings, but he's not all lovey-dovey right now, actually, even though he might be attracted to you, because obviously look at his eyes, just right at you, right? He's nervous. He's very, very nervous. He might still not be healed, and he doesn't want to open up the wounds of the past. He's not sure how to navigate the Queen of Swords in a way where she'll let down her guard. But again, assumptions, are something to not pay attention to too much, because if we assume, we believe wholeheartedly in the answer, and it doesn't have to be true unless we know for facts that something's going to happen, right? But usually you let the other person explain themselves. Maybe there's some sort of unsaid communication between these two, and when two people don't communicate fully, right, especially with the Queen of Swords, like this woman, she needs to communicate, she needs it, right? This is how she clarifies the relationships around her. It's not judgment, it's more like, should I dip my toe in this pool, energy. This guy doesn't really know how to do that very well. He's the Knight of Wands. Look at all this fire around him. He's passionate. He knows what to do in certain places in life. Okay, let's say that. And he's very adept at it, and he's good at it. 18 on the clock. But when it comes to speaking, clarifying with words, communicating in a way where he doesn't feel threatened or defensive, maybe he's never experienced a situation where he can actually successfully communicate with a female and it goes well. It like actually resolves the problem. Maybe the problem solving skills here are kind of absent. So this is what he's used to. He's used to walking away, abandonment, fighting, arguing, disillusionment, game playing. Maybe that's just what he's used to, right? So he's nervous because he doesn't have the right tools to communicate. We all have to learn communication tools. What does that mean? Certain dialogue that you could practice. You put it into your own words, but when you learn the basics of anything, you can apply them to more complicated situations in anything in life. So when it comes to communicating, you have to learn the basics, and you should be good at the basics. So when it comes to something difficult, you know where to, even if you've never done it before and you're going into uncharted territory. I see like a ship going into the rough waters. It's just like a skilled sailor will be like, oh yeah, well, I know how to do this. You go there, here, and we got it, right? He's like, I might not do it before, but I have the skill set, I have the basics down in order to kind of navigate into uncharted territory. Other people who have never learned certain basic skills of dialogue, communication, using words, how to present yourself, and how to actually actively listen to people, without judgment and being defensive. It's difficult sometimes because you might feel like you're right. You might feel like you're absolutely right, and you might be, but the other person might be actually right too. And this is where it comes to the meeting of the minds. Are you here for peace? Are you here for understanding and getting over something? Or are you here to state your claim and win something, win an argument? You know, when someone comes to communicating with someone to win, you're never going to listen to the other person. You're going to, talk over them. You're going to point your finger. You're never going to accept any kind of responsibility in the mix. It's a dance. Two people are at play here. So two people could be wrong and two people could be right at the same time. So I think this guy is not used to seeing outcomes successfully of like communicating and knowing how to communicate, knowing how to open up um, some sort of communication. That's what I'm going to say with that. Okay. Um, let's see what's going on. Let's do a little bit more clarifying with the knight real quick, and then we'll go on to the female. Obsession, trash, around winter. Something happened around winter. They're trying to let go. They feel overwhelmed. Like they feel tongue-tied. It's too much. I think they have a lot of baggage around them. They have a lot of baggage that they're still trying to clear out. They're not feeling very positive. But there's an obsession here. They can't let go. They hold on to you. They cling to you energetically. They think about you a lot. They like you. So amongst all this negative feelings, they like you. And that's why they're attached. And that's why he's staring at you like this. Okay, so let's clarify what's happening with the Queen of Swords then. Why she's kind of like, she's sitting and she has her back to him. So maybe she already brushed him off. Maybe she already put him in a bucket of, this guy's just a player. This guy is just swinging his wand around. He doesn't have any feelings. He doesn't use his heart center. He doesn't use his mind. He's just doing what he knows best. While it might seem fun and intriguing, she turned her back to him. She's looking out. The King of Swords and the Ten of Swords pop out for her. She's lots of swords, right? So this one, if this is you, or if this is the female that you're dealing with, she is very intelligent. She's very keen to energy. We have the King and the Queen of Swords, which just clarifies to me that she's responsible and she knows how to use words and concepts, basically. I want to say concepts to get her going. Not to say that she's always right either. No one's always right, even if you're super smart. That's the downside to people that are actually very smart. Some people, not all people, but some people that are super smart, like the top 5% of people out there, they can become arrogant. They look at people like they're beneath them because they think they're so smart and so superior that they're never wrong. They're like godlike, in their own minds, and they get out of control. Other people become super humble and kind and actually change the world, but this woman is very she has a lot of self-esteem. Yeah, she's done a lot of work, and it shows, and she's very astute. So if we have the Queen and the King of Swords with the Ten of Swords, she put an end to it. Like, I think this woman she wrote him off. She wrote the Knight of Wands off. She's like, I could pick up an F-boy at anywhere. I can go to the store right now and find someone to just not care about me. She's like, in the Nine of Pentacles, she's kind of like, you know what? Well, I guess this isn't really working. I'm just going to kind of enjoy what I have, what I've done for myself. even though, she's looking and she'd like some sort of camaraderie. She's happy with where she's gone so far, and she's confident in that. She's very, very confident in that. So I think that's why she's turning her back to this guy, right? Ten of Swords. She's like, this is done. You're gonna be a headache. You're gonna give me some scars. You're going to just play. You're gonna run your game on me, and I'm gonna pretend, and I'm gonna feel almost annoyed over the fact that um, I let you do that to me. Like I knew better, So before that happens, before you get regret and all these like sorrows of dealing with someone that doesn't have their best interest in mind for you, like, usually the Knight of Wands is kind of a little bit sociopathic. He's willing to manipulate women just to get their body, right? He looks at them like objects because he's so consumed by his own feelings and thoughts. So I think she kind of looked at it as like a red flag already, being like, why do I need to be used? Why would I want to be used? It doesn't matter how hot he is. He could be super hot. He could be super cute, like you would if you could, kind of thing. But at the same time, she's like, but I don't feel respected. I don't feel like he actually likes me or sees me as a human being. He just looks at my body. He just wants to use me as a prop in his selfish life. So why would the Queen of Swords, of all people, bow down to that? She knows better. She has respect for herself. And no matter how hot this guy is, no matter how intriguing he is, how much she actually would, she doesn't want to feel disrespected because that overlooms the feelings of attraction. No one wants to be used like a puppet, 1717 on the clock when I looked up. They want actual connection. They want that twin flame energy of being like, now we have around summer coming out and fire signs clarifying. Okay. Something is going to happen around summer. I don't know if you heard the car revving, but we have fire signs again. Something's coming back around the summer. So something happened around winter, and now it's like full circle summertime. Something is going to happen again. It's going to maybe begin again. There's some sort of start here. There's some sort of action happening. She still thinks about him, even though she knows that he's like probably not thinking of her. You know what I mean? Like, it's sad because most women that are inexperienced or just haven't learned their lesson yet, they'll fall in love with guys that are players, and then they'll get their hearts ripped open because they were manipulated and lied to for a very long time. This guy lies. Because let's face it, like, we're not very discerning with people that lie to us. We're just like, oh, really? And we believe everything. And that's how you get manipulated. That's how you get your heart hurt. And then you have all this resentment because you're like, oh my God, I fell for his shit. You know what I mean? And then they hate him, but he doesn't care because he never cared about them to begin with. You know what I'm saying? He's using them as a puppet. It's like going to the grocery store and being like, you know what? I feel like having a salad tonight. So he gets the ingredients, he consumes it, and then it's over with. He doesn't think about the salad anymore. You know? So you can't do that to a Queen of Swords. That's what I'm saying. So as much as there's some sort of attraction, he might respect her actually for denying him, which is strange. Like, some guys know that they're dirty, and then when they meet someone that denies them, they get more attracted because they're like, I know that I'm a dirty dog, and this one knows. I like that. It's weird, right? It's kind of weird. Okay, so where is this going? Where is this going? Let's see. Let's pull some cards. Connection. Love is the bridge connecting souls. Cherish these connections. So maybe there will be some sort of reconnection around summer. What else? Closure and heartbreak. This person might want to come to you, reconnect, and kind of have some closure on what happened in the past, which is good. That's responsible communication. That's not fighting. That's not defending. That's not pointing fingers. That's not all these manipulations. It's more just like, listen, um, I'm waving the white flag, like, let's just come. I come to you in peace, Queen. I come to you in peace. Can we just have closure about what happened or what you think happened or what, could we both talk basically and explain ourselves? Because usually when you both come into a peaceful place where you can explain yourselves openly and honestly and be like, listen, I'll tell you what I thought of the situation and what I felt and what I, thought was going on. And then you can hear me out and just listen, just listen like you're almost investigating, like you're on an adventure in a new planet and you're investigating, oh, what's happening here, just be curious about what people think. It doesn't have to mean that you have to agree with everything. And then the other person says, well, okay, well, I heard you out. This is what I saw, and this is what I thought, and this is what I did, and this is what my point of view of what happened. And then you're both going to come to each other basically and be like, what? Because your stories are going to be kind of drastically different, and that's the beauty in communication, because sometimes you can heal and resurrect relationship of any kind through communicating the truth. And again, it has to be tactful, it has to be kind, it has to be responsible with the honesty that comes out of your mouth. You can't just be a dick and be like, say all these mean things to someone and be like, well, at least I'm being honest. No, you're being an asshole. you know you have to have tact. Okay, you have to have tact with honesty. And if you both come in a place where it's peaceful and open and you're willing to learn something new about each other, that's the huge connection here. That's a huge closure too. You can actually close the door to something silly and be like, I can't believe we both saw something so drastically different. That's kind of funny, and you can laugh over it. You could move on. That's what I'm getting from that. This is a journey. You've flown so far already. You have to keep your gaze on the horizon. You're almost there. So I feel like there's some sort of long journey that you've both been on. I think you both kind of collided. You clashed, I want to say, and then you flew your different ways. But for some reason, there's some sort of reconnection to closure. There's a bridge, closing the door to the past, and being able to open up the door to a new fresh slate, a new page in the book, a new chapter, because you both communicated and you let it go, because you're just like, all right, well, I know where you were coming from and you know where I was coming from, and I understand that you might have thought that, but this is what I was thinking. And and you just flesh it out. You really can start new, and that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen without trying. You actually have to do it. You can't just be silent, sweep dirt under the rug and expect it to clean itself. It just accumulates more dirt, accumulates more bad energy, accumulates more assumptions, right? And we lose relationships of all kinds that way. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship. um, so instead of sweeping things under the rug with silence and assumptions and just always yearning for, like, oh, I wish this person understood something or heard me out, I think maybe there's some sort of talk. And it doesn't have to mean that you both get together after the talk, but it could be like, I respect you and I like you more because of it. And now we're friends at least, right? So this queen might turn her back around because she's like, you know what? At least you came and you expressed yourself to me, and you did it in a way where, like, we both listen to each other. So it doesn't matter if you're in a family, it doesn't matter if you're friends, if you're lovers, if you're one night stand, whatever it is, coworkers, any kind of relationship. If you sweep things under the rug with silence, there's nothing good that comes out of it. All right, you don't heal through time. You just let time heal whatever wounds you have. No, that never happens. You have to use your words, and you have to use them wisely. Okay. Maybe there's another chance after that. I don't know. Maybe there's a new chance of connection between these two. You want to see? Let's pull a few more and then we'll stop. Knight of Wands again. We're going full circle. We're going full circle. Double Knight of Wands. So going right back to the beginning with this guy, a new start. Being able to celebrate. Maybe you can actually have fun together. What's always a good way to kind of clear the air after you've spoken or something heavy and serious? Just go have fun. Like, that's when you don't talk about it anymore. When you close the door with closure and you're just like, all right, this is kaput. We've said everything we wanted to. We did everything. We agreed to disagree here. We agreed to agree here. We're back on a fresh slate. That's when you don't talk about it anymore because you don't need to. You handled the problem and you let it go. That's exactly when you can go on and just have more fun, be a little bit more lighthearted and smile, giggle, all that fun stuff. But until you actually can do that, say like you never talk to this person, there's always like this weird energy swept under the rug. Like even if you try to have fun, there's always like this gnawing energy of like push and pull, tricky or not, because you don't know where they're coming from. So again, if you can learn to clarify your emotions with words, learn new words. That helps. It helps. Developing your vocabulary helps you express yourself more concisely. And the other person also has to be somewhat intelligent in order to understand what that means too. It's both. But what I'm saying here is that the more you can clarify yourself and your emotions, and not make it into a pissing match, like pointing your finger at each other, you can actually start over fresh from a fresh page. And it doesn't matter if you've known this person for 1 month, 10 years, or 40 years. If you both are willing to do that and throw out the garbage after you've done, kind of going through all the sides, that's where you throw it out and start over again. This person wants that. They kind of want to go back to just the basics, the Knight of Wands, So like, what else? Judgment and the Hanged Man. Like again, from the beginning, this Knight of Wands was very anxious and they're feeling negative feelings because this has never happened to them before and they don't have any experience. It's like someone trying to ride a bike for the first time and the other person is like a motocross racer. There's like a huge difference in experience when it comes to this. So this is why he's nervous, but he's judging himself. It's just like, if I die, right? This is all about judgment. It's like, when I die at the end of my life, am I going to feel regret for not saying something, for not trying, for not doing something? Like, what do I want to do here? No matter how anxious I am, no matter how scared I am, no matter how inexperienced I am, do I want this? How bad do I want it? Will I be able to sleep well at night? Right? So they're asking themselves this, and they're caught up on this with the Hanged Man. But the Hanged Man is all about gaining a new perspective. So this person is gaining a new perspective on how they're going to go about doing this, because they're going to fight their feelings of, anxiety and kind of look at this from a new point of view, in a place where they can feel good about themselves. And that's reassuring. When you go through something new and scary, it's scary, but when you go through something new and it actually is successful, then you gain this new confidence. And that opens up doors to even more confidence, right? So if it's gaining confidence in communication, especially in relationships, especially on a topic that is difficult, you gain this confidence to do it again, and it doesn't become so harrowing. It doesn't become so anxiety inducing, right? The next time you try to communicate, because you're like, all right, well, the worst thing that can happen is that, this person is a brick wall and they don't want to communicate. All right, well, I guess I tried, and that's that. So this is coming full circle. you know, whatever side you're on, give it a chance openly, fairly, and see what happens.